in our developing story was an internal effort to pave the way to fire Coach David Fizdale. At 2-8, the Knicks are tied for worst in the association, despite the 10th easiest schedule. And Woj and Malika Andrews are reporting the news conference after the 8th loss yesterday was designed to convince owner Jim Dolan that, hey, we have R.J. Barrett, so our team should be highly competitive. So it's got to be, as Woj and Malika phrased it, the lack of a consistent level of effort and execution. What do you think of the Knicks' execution? I'm in favor of it. After the 21-point loss to the Cavs, President Steve Mills and GM Scott Perry assumed responsibility. And when I say assumed, I mean they blamed everybody else.
What's the level of patience that you have with Coach Fizdale and this team to figure things out before you start considering making changes?
No, we have patience, and we believe in Coach, and we believe in the group that we put together. But we also know that, as Scott and I both have said a number of times, we need to find a way to have a consistent level of effort and execution that has to pull itself together. It's not good enough for us to play well for 2 quarters and then play poorly for 2 other quarters. What we have to do is find a way to play consistent basketball. And we believe in this group, and we believe they're capable of doing it, and we've just got to find a way to get them there.
David, in what ways do you feel supported?
Just the fact that we talk every day. You know, we're in constant communication with each other. We're very raw with each other, good or bad. None of us have an ego about it. We're all on the same page of where we're trying to get to. You know, and at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
Have you gotten any assurances?
I got a 2.5-year contract. That's my insurance. You know, that's our business. The insurance is about that I have a contract.
All this makes the happiest man in sports, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, they're kidding with this, right? You obviously often see executives who are at fault blaming coaches who really are not at fault. But in public at a press conference, what's this about?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Speaking to Steve Mills earlier, he felt compelled to address the public because his position was, hey, you know what, we're not as good as we're supposed to be. And he emphasized he's holding everybody accountable. Himself, Scott Perry, the general manager, along with Coach David Fizdale. But the bottom line is that this makes Fizdale look like a lame duck coach. We see the roster that he's working with. What the hell do you mean you expected to be better? In what world? Nobody else expected you to be better. You know it's bad. Marcus Morris can play, for example. He is your leading scorer. He's shooting, like 43% from three-point range. That means he's shooting 30% from 2-point range because he's a 43% shooter. You got a rookie in R.J. Barrett that's out there tied with Julius Randle as your second leading scorer. I've watched Dallas's game, the Knicks game against Dallas Friday night. At one point in time, Marcus Morris was playing the point. And another time, it was Julius Randle bringing up the ball in crunch time. Now, I don't know, for those of you out there that don't understand basketball, Julius Randle is a power forward. He can do some things down low, but he's always going left. He's always going to use his left hand. Marcus Morris is a 6'8", lifelong forward that you are now asking to play point guard. He can make shots. He can play. They can contribute to a team. But there's no way on earth they have to play the role that they're playing. You know why they're playing those roles? Because this is all Fizdale has to work with. Right. Nobody expected the Knicks to be good. So when Steve Mills comes out and says publicly, we did expect better. And I'm like, in what world?
Yeah.
Who? We did it.
2-8. I thought they were going to be 0-10. This is better.
Look, there are blowout losses to the Sacramento Kings, to the Detroit Pistons without Blake Griffin, and to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who haven't been relevant since LeBron James departed. You have 8 losses, but I just gave you 3 blowout losses to teams widely recognized to be non-playoff teams. And guess what? No one was surprised. No one. You know what the surprise was? That the Knicks actually won Friday night against the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know. I'm trying to be nice. I really am. But this is some hard stuff to take because, to me, it's not what Steve Mills said. Yeah. It's the fact that he addressed it in a press conference. Yes. I'm told that James Dolan knew exactly what he was going to do. I was not told whether or not James Dolan told him to do it. He felt compelled to do it. My response is, why? We didn't expect anything from you the moment we realized that instead of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You gave us Julius Randle, Marcus Morris, Elfrid Payton, and we kept Frank Ntilikina. We didn't know. What did we expect? We didn't expect anything.
I expect that the next coach of the Knicks will be Billy Joel. The one and only Stephen A. Smith. A reminder, you and I had a great time once sitting together watching a Knicks playoff game in this lifetime. It seems impossible that it was this lifetime.
I had to bring that up.
I'm
you
sorry.
Actually tell the American public you like me, and you bring something like that up.
ESPN app. Welcome back. The Knicks suffered a 21-point loss to the Cavs at home last night. Afterward, Knicks GM Scott Perry and President Steve Mills held a press conference, which, guys, that is very unusual. We're going to play that, followed by Coach Fizz talking at practice today.
Obviously, Scott and I are not happy with where we are right now. We think the team's not performing to the level that we anticipated or we expected it to perform at, and it's something that we think we collectively have to do a better job of delivering the product on the floor that we said we would do at the start of this season. We still believe in our coaching staff. We believe in the plan that Scott and I put together and the players that we've assembled, but we also have to acknowledge that we haven't played at the level we expected to play at. We haven't played we've seen glimpses of how we can play as a team when everything comes together.
I got a 2.5-year contract. That's my insurance. You know, that's our business. The insurance is about that I have a contract.
Fizz there in part reacting to a story from our Adrian Wojnarowski and Malika Andrews saying that Steve Mills, quote, has started to lay the internal groundwork for Coach Fizdale's eventual dismissal, which is very big. Welcome to the Jump, Woj. And I want to give everyone a heads up. Woj also very hardworking, the Gordon Hayward story. So if you see him tweet in real time here, that's probably what that is, and that's lucky too. Woj, tell us a little bit, though, about this Knicks story. How does that jibe sort of with what you've been told, that Fizz is out there this morning saying he has assurances, he's got a contract, he's had Perry supportive behind him?
Well, David Fizdale is going to be a company guy. He learned that in Miami. You back management regardless of what might have happened the previous night in a news conference. But there's no question. You remember, Steve Mills has survived several coaching hirings and dismissals in New York. His overall record is well under 500, 150 games plus, I believe. And so he is consistently got the ear of owner Jim Dolan, and what he said publicly is very consistent with what he's saying privately, which is they have put together a good team for David Fizdale. This team should be winning. Now, that is counter to, I think, a lot of the conventional wisdom around the NBA. Other executives, coaches in the league were stunned by that news conference, the timing of it, the tone of it. While your coach is in the locker room talking to the team to march in and do that. It was unusual.
Yeah, I mean, that was, to me, one of the also really super interesting parts of this piece you wrote, because you had that line saying Mills is selling James Dolan on a roster constructed to be highly competitive in the East. And then you had other reporting in the story there saying rival executives and scouts see the roster as unbalanced and, quote, slow of foot. So how does that all jibe together, especially with Mills telling Dolan, hey, this should be a competitive team in the Eastern Conference?
Well, in the end, this is a coach who has 2.5 years left on his contract. And this is what happens when the team is not playing well. You're not going to see Steve Mills here really take much responsibility for the fact that this is, that they've had Mitchell Robinson out, that Frank Ntilikina has trouble keeping, the speed of opponents is tough. You saw it last night with Sexton and Garland. And right now, especially with Kristaps Porzingis coming back Thursday, you know what the Garden could look like, sound like. He comes back, plays well. And that trade that is on Mills and Scott Perry's resume last season and how far it is clear to set them back, you saw this was a precursor last night to getting out in front of it and putting it on the coach. That's where the Knicks are right now, Rach.
Well, is there any sense of how quickly the Knicks would intend to move in this situation? Well, at 2-8, this is a team that, especially at home, they've gotten blown out
twice now at home, Sacramento, Cleveland, and I think the home blowouts, certainly, put some gravity on this. They did just win at Dallas. They played well at Boston, who's been the elite in the East, but those bad home losses certainly have played a factor in the optics of this 2-8 start. And for David Fizdale to make it beyond this week, he probably needs to not have more of those. But